New tonight on Our News at 7, Sam Bankman-Fried may have his bail application heard as early as next month. The latest on the former FTX chief's court matter. Police investigating a shooting at Culbert's Hill that left a man dead. New details straight ahead. Plus, a public-private partnership in action in the healthcare system. The doctor's hospital chief speaks out tonight. And then in Our News at 7:30, big business for Abaco as a new resort is set to bring hundreds of jobs to the storm-ravaged island. The details straight ahead. This is Our News Live at 7. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm Megan Shepard. Lawyers for former FTX CEO Sam Bankman-Fried losing the chance to get their client bail before the end of the year. They were denied an emergency bail application today. His attorneys could not prove to the court their client was entitled to that emergency bail hearing. Instead, he will have to wait until January 17th for Justice Janine Weish Gomez to hear that bail application. Today was the last day for bail hearings before the end of the year. The legal year begins on January 11th. The former FTX CEO appeared before Chief Magistrate Joyanne Ferguson Pratt on Tuesday after local authorities arrested him the day before. His arrest followed notification of criminal charges filed in the U.S. That filing could lead to his extradition. Bankman-Fried did not waive his right to extradition. U.S. authorities want him to answer charges over the collapse of FTX last month and allegations of massive fraud. In the original arguments for bail, his attorney, Jerome Roberts, told the court his client suffers from depression, insomnia, and attention deficit disorder and is on medication. In the end, the chief magistrate said she believes he is a flight risk and remanded the 30-year-old to the Department of Corrections. Police investigating yet another homicide. Officer in charge of the Criminal Investigation Department, Chief Superintendent Michael Johnson, says this latest incident happened just after 3 p.m. today.
Sometime around 3:02 p.m., the victim had pulled up to a residence on Broadsfields Road when he was accosted by a lone gunman who produced a firearm and shot him several times. He ran east on Broadsfield Road and then north onto St. Anne's Crescent where he collapsed. This gunman was seen getting into a black vehicle, which we believe is a Nissan type model, where he made good his escape.
Chief Superintendent Johnson says they believe the victim is in his mid-20s, but could not confirm that he was known to police. He also says the victim is a resident of the area. He says the focus should not be on the number of homicides, but on the police's commitment to solve them.
But I want us to look at the way that we are solving these matters with the assistance of the public. And I would like to take this opportunity to thank the members of the public for assisting us in closing many of these matters.
A man convicted of damaging his ankle bracelet and violating his bail conditions was wrongly convicted. The Court of Appeal on Thursday ordered that 25-year-old London Ramming face trial on the allegations after prosecutor Vernal Colley conceded that his guilty plea was not unequivocal. The prosecution had contended that Ramming had deliberately cut off the ankle bracelet that he was wearing for an attempted murder case. However, Ramming denied this at his arraignment before Senior Magistrate Carolyn Voigt Evans on September 23rd. He said the ankle bracelet was torn up after he was knocked off his motorbike. In light of Ramming's explanation on how the ankle bracelet was removed, Colley said the magistrate should have recorded a not guilty verdict and set a trial date. Instead, she convicted Ramming and imposed concurrent sentences of 15 months in prison. Bajan Ferguson represented Ramming. 11 Haitians and 1 Jamaican were arraigned in the magistrate's court for immigration offenses. 4 of the Haitian nationals and the Jamaican were charged with overstaying. They all pled guilty before Magistrate Algernon Allen Jr. and were fined $1,000. If they don't pay the fine, they will serve 6 months at the Bahamas Department of Correctional Services. Additionally, 5 Haitians were charged with illegal landing. All pled guilty and were warned and discharged, with one receiving a fine of $300 or 6 months in prison. Also, 2 Haitian nationals pled guilty to knowingly attempting to mislead an immigration officer and were fined $300 and $2,500 respectively. If the money isn't paid, they will spend a year behind bars. Once the fines are paid and sentences are completed, the migrants were ordered to be turned over to the Department of Immigration for deportation. Doctors Hospital has once again stepped up to assist the Public Hospitals Authority with patient care. Our Jamila Mizik got an update on an agreement that allows for PMH patients to be treated at Doctors Hospital West.
While the Princess Margaret Hospital's aging infrastructure is receiving a much-needed facelift, some of their patients have been transferred to Doctors Hospital West. The facility was once used to assist with the critical care of COVID patients at the height of the pandemic. And today, President and CEO of Doctors Hospital, Dr. Charles Diggis, says there are currently 21 patients receiving care at the facility, and the patients are being treated by Doctors Hospital employees.
So the patients are registered in Doctors Hospital Health System. They undergo Doctors Hospital's quality and type of care, and they are then discharged either, and this is by choice, back into the PMH system, or we're happy to follow them up within our Doctors Hospital's resources.
When it comes to how long this public-private partnership will last, Dr. Diggis said this.
Our view is we will remain prepared to accommodate patients from PMH under this kind of arrangement at our Blake Road facility, and even at our imminently opening Harborside facility. We will simply remain prepared to do that. And as long as the government and the patients of the Bahamas have that need.
And as for who's paying for the services, Dr. Diggis says the government is underwriting the cost at what he says is a fairly significant discount.
We believe at Doctors Hospital that we continuing to provide this kind of capacity will push that agenda of consider the private sector as a partner.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Jamila Mizik.
Thank you for that update, Jamila. It's now time for your first look at temperatures. Forecaster Ian McKenzie is standing by in the Weather Center. Ian?
Thanks, Megan, and good evening, Bahamas. Welcome to our forecast for this evening. Currently outside our studios, we're under partly cloudy skies with a temperature of 80 degrees. Our winds are out of the south-southeast at 9 miles per hour with a feels-like temperature of 80. Current temperatures across the country at this time. In Freeport City, we have a temperature of 80, 78 in Marsh Harbor, 82 in Allenstown, Bimini, 80 in Great Harbor Key, 80 in Governor's Harbor, also in Nassau, and 78 in Nicholstown, 83 in Arthurstown, 77 in Coburn Town, San Salvador, 79 in Deadman's Key, 80 in Georgetown, Exuma, and 77 in Kemps Bay, Andros. In the southeast Bahamas, we have 78 in Colonel Hill, Crooked Island, 80 in Delectable Bay, Acklands, 77 in Abrahams Bay, 82 in Duncantown, Ragged Island, 79 in Matthewtown, and our friends in the deep south, Providenciales, Turks and Caicos, rounding up our temperature profile at 82. Taking a look at our satellite and radar at this time, we have this cold front that's been creating quite a bit of havoc across the U.S. Now it's making its way across the central southeast Florida, and eventually it will make its way into our area late tonight into early tomorrow. So we expect a few showers, possible isolated thunderstorms from this frontal boundary as it makes its way southeastwards. That's your first look at weather. Stay tuned. More is still to come.
Still to come on Our News, business or pleasure. Our Berthany McDermott is live at Margaritaville Beach Resort, exploring meeting spaces for every fit. And deck the halls with gingerbread? Our Jerome Sawyer takes us inside a winter wonderland. And later, we'll show you how Junkanoo comes alive with the pulse of the backline. You've already got a taste of food and beverage at Margaritaville, but the hotel also boasts of meeting spaces for a wide range of events. Our Berthany McDermott now joins us live with all the details.
That's right, Megan. We're back again here at Margaritaville, Nassau Beach, here in downtown Nassau. This time outside their meeting rooms and ballroom spaces. We spoke to Director of Catering and Conventions, Catrice Nesbitt-Dames, who explains why the spaces here are better than others around the island.
Margaritaville does have some uniqueness about it because of the new and the island and the natural sunlight that all of our meeting space have. I will say that it's a breath of fresh air to have.
Be it a corporate meeting, wedding, or expo, Margaritaville offers a space to meet the need. As Catering and Conventions Director Catrice Nesbitt-Dames explains, the meeting spaces at Margaritaville's gives a special feel.
We do have 2 executive boardrooms. We have a boardroom that can accommodate 10, and we have a boardroom that can accommodate 14. I will say that they are beautiful, sun-lit rooms, I will say.
The resort also offers other breakout rooms that can accommodate up to 60 people in one instance and up to 40 people in another instance.
Your standard tables and chairs, your standard linen, and your utensils, of course. Also, we just want to add that the internet is complimentary. Now, when it comes to your food and beverage, it all depends on what you are requesting.
Well, Megan, my birthday is in a couple of months, and I'm looking to have a slamming party, and the rooms and spaces here at Margaritaville are definitely topping my list. But if anyone else is looking to use one of the spaces here, you can reach out to them by emailing sales@margaritavilleresortnassau.com or by simply placing a call to the resort. But for now, coming to you live from Margaritaville, I'm Berthany McDermott. Back to you, Megan.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that, Berthany. I'm looking forward to my VIP invite to your birthday. And if you ever wondered what a real-life gingerbread house is like, then you may want to pay a visit to Poiston's Table in Atlantis. Our Jerome Sawyer got a jump start on the experience today. Here's a look at what he found.
It took Atlanta's hotel pastry chefs 3 weeks of round-the-clock baking to produce 4,200 gingerbread bricks that line the entrance and walls of the popular Royal Towers eatery.
When we started to cut the shapes and the forms, probably started about a month ago, but the real baking took place only around about 10 days ago, and it took us an entire week to bake everything.
The ingredients: 1,000 pounds of flour, 222 pounds of sugar, 40 pounds of honey, 5 pounds of spices, and 1,000 eggs all went into the mixing bowls. And what's the trick to making it all stick?
There's no glue, it's all royal icing. So on the back of the tiles is icing, and between the tiles is icing.
It's a dessert marvel that seemingly delights hotel and restaurant guests, making the entire experience an enchanting Christmas delight.
I think most of the guests, when they first see it, don't believe it's all food, but it's all entirely edible. And it is rather spectacular. As you can see, it's a massive lifestyle structure. And throughout the restaurant, we have different nativity scenes, reindeer and penguins and Santa's chair and all the 150 gingerbread houses.
I'm told here that the folks at Poseidon's Table clean these 4,000 gingerbread bricks every day. So that means the display is always clean, always moist and soft to touch, and completely edible. Curious as to how it tastes? Well, you're going to have to find that out for yourself. Reporting for Our News, I'm Jerome Sawyer.
When Our News comes back from the break, we turn our spotlight to stories making headlines across the world as Cubans are facing economic crisis. Plus, it's more important than ever for us to take action on the planet. This week's Sustainability First report explains why. Plus, what secrets do the backline leaders hold? We'll share a few when Our News continues. This is Our News. Welcome back. We turn our attention now to stories making headlines across the world. We begin in the UK, where tens of thousands of nurses are staging a day of strikes across England, Wales, and Northern Ireland. It's an ongoing dispute over pay versus cost of living increases. This is the first strike in their 106-year-long history. A second is planned for December 20th. Nurses in urgent and emergency services remained on duty, but with reduced numbers at many non-urgent services. The Royal College of Nursing General Secretary Pat said they didn't want to strike, but had to amid the highest inflation levels in 40 years. Protesters agree.
This is the only way we can make them listen. They have spoken to our leaders. We don't know yet what that discussion was about. We haven't been updated. But as far as we know, the strike was meant to go ahead today and on the 20th. So if we're doing it today, it means nothing has been achieved.
Kenya's decades-old ban on the cultivation and importation of genetically modified maize is lifted thanks to the new government of Kenyan President William Ruto. It comes as East Africa faces the worst drought in 4 decades, ravaging crops and livestock. The region's wealthiest country is struggling to feed its 55 million people. The country runs a consistent deficit of 10 million bags of the maize staple. The gap is filled by imports. Ruto, who was sworn into office in mid-September, says the move was necessary to help ensure food security. Maize growers and smallholder farmers groups filed a lawsuit after farmers started criticizing the move.
The maize we are growing is they're open pollinated varieties, which means if they bring in the BT seeds or the GMO seeds, if we have to avoid the contamination, then it means that we'll have to have that isolation distance. The isolation distance from the BT maize to our indigenous maize, which is about almost 100 meters. Farmers cannot afford that because land is also scarce. We are smallholder farmers and our land holding is very small. So if any other, let's say another smallholder farmer decides to grow the BT maize, then generally or definitely my indigenous seeds will be affected.
Fossil fuel firms can cross HSBC off their list of lenders for new projects. The banking giant says it will no longer fund new oil and gas fields. It would also expect more information from energy clients about their plans to cut carbon emissions. The move is part of a wider update of its policy on the sector. It was hailed by environmental groups who had criticized the bank as one of the biggest lenders to energy companies. Now it won't lend to any of these projects that received final approval after the end of last year. It's one of the biggest banks to make such an announcement. However, HSBC says it will continue to fund energy companies at the corporate level to help drive the adoption of clean fuel sources. Peru is now in a state of emergency, granting police special powers and limiting freedoms. It also limits the right to assemble after a week of fiery protests left at least 8 dead. The protests were sparked by the ousting of former President Pedro Castillo on December 7th in an impeachment vote. Castillo, a leftist elected in 2021, was arrested after illegally trying to dissolve the Andean nation's Congress. Castillo's former vice president, Dina Boluarte, was sworn into office after his removal. Her presidency has divided other Latin American leaders.
We have agreed to declare a state of emergency throughout the country due to vandalism, violence, and roads and highway closure. These acts are being controlled by the national police and by armed forces. It requires a strong, authoritative response from the government.
A little closer to home, Cuba is reforecasting its economic growth down to 3% for 2023, while reporting only 2% growth in 2022. That's half of what was previously predicted. This year has proven tough for most Cubans who had already suffered as a result of 2 years of pandemic lockdowns, raging inflation, and food, medicine, and other shortages. Daily blackouts have disrupted lives and the economy, while fuel and parts shortages have gutted public transportation. A record number of Cubans have left the island this year, some 250,000 entering the United States. U.S. government statistics show the majority crossing over the Mexican border after flying to countries like Nicaragua. Now, more than ever, it's time to take action on restoring the Earth from the negative effects of climate change and global warming. Tonight's Sustainability First report takes a closer look at how the United Nations is helping to drive that action. Christina Dragovich reports.
Bahamas First, putting sustainability first for our people and our environment. What's first for you and the planet comes first for us.
People live on this good earth, and it's our actions that have caused the degradation.
That's the executive director of the United Nations Environment Program, Inger Anderson. Anderson gave her take on the current state of the world and where we need to be as the United Nations revealed new details about 10 groundbreaking initiatives to help restore the natural world. Speaking at the live announcement of the first 10 UN World Restoration flagships, Anderson says there are key indicators and changes in the world around us that show us that all is not right.
We are not on a good trajectory. You see a mangrove gone in Bangladesh, and you know what that means when the typhoon and the high storms come. But if you restore that mangrove, it'll be that cushion effect when the storms come. You will see that where the mangroves grow, that's where you will have crayfish. That's where fish spawn.
That leaves the question, what can we do in the Bahamas to restore our environment? Reporting for Our News, I'm Christina Dragovich.
Still to come on Our News. Today in history, find out interesting facts about the day that was December 15th, including the 2017 retirement of Dame Anita Allen from the Court of Appeal. Plus, Ian is back with your extended weather forecast. And then in Our News at 7:30, Christmas is for toys and goodies, but make sure you check them twice. A pediatrician gives some guidelines for toy safety. That's coming up when Our News continues. Welcome back. It's now time to turn our spotlight on events that shaped the day that was December 15th. On this day in Bahamian history, in 1897, Robert Henry Sawyer became Speaker of the House of Assembly. He served in office for less than a year before stepping down and was replaced by Francis Abraham Holmes. Then, 82 years later, in 1979, Jamaican and international recording group Bob Marley and the Wailers performed their only concert in the Bahamas at the Queen Elizabeth Sports Center. The concert tour was to promote their latest album, Survival. On December 15, 2007, Bahamian-owned Sands Bear was officially launched in Freeport, Grand Bahama. Owner James Jimmy Sands and family have a long heritage in the liquor and beverage business, and in 2008 completed their dream of owning and operating their own 100% Bahamian brewery. And in 2017, after serving as president of the Court of Appeal for just over 7 years, members of the judiciary and legal profession bid farewell to Dame Anita Allen. A special retirement sitting in the court on the day brought attorneys and jurists together to remember a giant in the legal profession. Then, in world history in 1939, the film Gone with the Wind had its world premiere in Atlanta. In 1964, Canada's Parliament adopted a new national flag with a red maple leaf on a white background. 1966 saw the death of Walt Disney, the American animator who created Mickey Mouse. Well, music is an important part of the Junkanoo experience. During each parade, the backline section makes sure viewers feel the rhythm. Christina Dragovich takes a look in this report.
You hear it from miles away, the hum of the distant goatskin drum. Darkness falls in the capital, and the beat of the distant drum signals that Junkanoo practice is underway somewhere. The tricks, feathers, and Junkanoo dancers are the icing on the cake, but the backline leaders we spoke to say their section is the heart, the pulse of Junkanoo.
Without your heart, you can't live. And so the backline is like the engine. It's that boom, boom, it's that feeling, it's the vibration, and it's the pulse. And most of the group feed off the backline.
40 of us consist of goat skins, tum-tums. We play different parts with the drums. You know, some persons play first, some persons play second, some persons play third rhythm on the drum.
Thanks, Christina. And to hear those sweet sounds on Boxing Day and New Year's Day, be sure to stay tuned to the Our TV broadcast. And Italia is joining us live now for our 7:30 broadcast. Italia, I don't know about you, but the Christmas season always awakens my sweet tooth. What do you think about us going to see that in-person gingerbread house?
Poseidon's table where Jerome was at earlier,
Absolutely.
right? It looks great. How about tomorrow at 12?
Sounds like a date.
Thanks, Megan. Well, we are continuing to follow the FTX saga. Another big story today was the signing of an $800 million heads of agreement. Our coverage continues right now with the latest.
First tonight on our news at 7:30, an $800 million heads of agreement signed for a development in South Abaco. Details of a new constitutional hearing for a man who was expelled from the country in 2017. Plus, new details on the emergency bail application for former FTX CEO Sam Bankman-Fried. And later, our Bertha McDermott joins us live from the Margaritaville Resort for the National Junkanoo Legend Circle induction ceremony. Our news live at 7:30 starts in a moment.
Welcome to our news and thank you for joining us. I'm Italia Hall. Despite a last-minute attempt to try and get their client out on bail, lawyers representing disgraced FTX CEO Sam Bankman-Fried facing a setback in court, leaving their client in jail at least until January. We will have details on that failed application today, but first, a multi-million-dollar development is on the way for South Abaco. The heads of agreement signed today at the office of the Prime Minister. Our Marlena Leonard was there.
An $800 million resort community project will be coming soon to South Abaco. This was after a heads of agreement was signed between the government and South Abaco Land Development Company Limited. The group has already signed an agreement with Setai, well known for their luxury hotel in Miami, as the hospitality brand and operator for the property, which will be known as Kokona. And the developers have already invested $50 million into the project over the past 15 years. Member of Parliament for Central and South Abaco, John Pinder, shared his excitement for the diversification of the economic geography of Abaco.
Can you imagine having to drive an hour and then take a half-an-hour ferry just to have a job every day to feed your family? This is going to revolutionize the way people are able to feed the next generations, the way the next generations will have something to do within Abaco.
And for those who aren't already trained in the jobs that will be needed at Kokona.
And there's a skill training component to it, so we won't be only looking for skilled workers outside of this country. We'll be training our people to do the right jobs, and the skills will evolve.
South Abaco Land Development Company Director Tom Boynton describes the development as environmentally sensitive.
We're paying attention to the environment of South Abaco and trying to maintain what's there.
The commercial aspect of the property is expected to be completed in 5 to 7 years, and they've said they expect shovels in the ground within months. Reporting for Our News, I'm Marlena Leonard.
While a broad daylight shooting killing a man in his mid-20s, officer in charge of the Criminal Investigation Department, Chief Superintendent Michael Johnson, said after 3 p.m. a man was pulling up to a home on Broadsfield Road when he was approached by a gunman who opened fire on him, shooting him multiple times. The victim tried to run but collapsed through St. Andrews Crescent, where he died. Johnson said the shooter got away in a black Nissan vehicle. Investigations into this matter continues. The murder count now stands at 126 for the year. Lawyers for former FTX CEO Sam Bankman-Fried losing the chance to get their client bail before the end of the year. They were denied an emergency bail application today. His attorneys could not prove to the court that their client was entitled to that emergency bail hearing. Instead, he will have to wait until January 17 for Justice Janine Weish Gomez to hear that application for bail. Today was the last day for bail hearings before the end of the year. The legal year begins on January 11th. The former FTX CEO appeared before Chief Magistrate Joy-Ann Ferguson-Pratt on Tuesday after local authorities arrested him the day before. His arrest followed notification of criminal charges filed in the U.S. That filing could lead to his extradition. Bankman-Fried did not waive his right to extradition. U.S. authorities want him to answer charges over the collapse of FTX last month and allegations of massive fraud. In the original arguments for bail, his attorney, Jerome Roberts, told the court his client suffers from depression, insomnia, and attention deficit disorder and is on medication. In the end, the chief magistrate said she believes he is a flight risk and remanded the 30-year-old to the Department of Corrections. Now to a controversial immigration case that has been making its way through the courts for the last 4 years. Megan Shepard has the latest in the Jean Charles case.
The country's highest court has ordered a new constitutional hearing for a man of Haitian descent who was expelled from the country in 2017. Justice Gregory Hilton in 2018 ordered authorities to return Jean Charles to the Bahamas after finding that he had been unlawfully deported to Haiti. On September 18, 2017, immigration officials arrested a man by the name of Jean Charles at Fire Trail Road after he was unable to produce any documents. He was taken to the Carmichael Road Detention Center, and authorities found no record of a Jean Charles being born in the Bahamas on December 1, 1985. Jean Charles was not charged with any offense or brought before a court. However, he was expelled to Haiti on November 24, 2017. In January 2018, Justice Hilton ruled that Jean Charles had been deprived of his right to personal liberty and his right to be brought before the court without reasonable delay. He ordered authorities to issue a travel document to facilitate Jean Charles's return to the country and for immigration officials to issue him status to live and work in the Bahamas. However, the Court of Appeal overturned Hilton's decision in October 2018, ruling that the hearing was procedurally unfair. Jean Charles appealed the decision to the Privy Council, which ordered a new constitutional hearing. He was returned to the Bahamas in February 2018 in compliance with Justice Hilton's order. However, his legal status remains in limbo. Reporting for Our News, I'm Megan Shepard.
Thanks, Megan. Police are searching for a woman from Acklands and a man from Boston who are both missing. Acklands police officers are trying to find 49-year-old Bertha Mae Williams, a resident of Delectable Bay, Acklands, who was reported missing by her family on Monday. Her family said she was last seen in bushes near her home. Now, in the second matter, police say on Tuesday, 63-year-old Bishir Hashim from Boston was one of two men who went out to sea on a boat in the area of Elizabeth Harbor in Exuma. Hashim reportedly left the boat on a smaller boat in the area of Count Cut to fish, but up to 5:30 p.m. he did not return. The captain of the boat became concerned and reported the incident to authorities. Marine unit officers made their check of the harbor and surrounding keys, but the missing Boston man was not found. The search was halted due to weather conditions, but investigations continue. Well, we saw clear skies and pleasant conditions in the capital today. Forecaster Ian McKenzie has the latest from the Weather Center. Ian?
Thanks, Italia, and good evening, Bahamas. Here's your first look at weather for this evening. Currently outside our studios, we're under partly cloudy skies with a temperature of 80 degrees. Our winds are out of the south-southeast at 9 miles per hour with a feels-like temperature of 79. Satellite and radar imagery at this time. We have quite an impressive frontal boundary making its way towards our area. It's just trekking towards the Tampa, Central Florida, moving into the Southeast Florida late tonight and into our area late tonight, early tomorrow. So across the extreme Northwest Bahamas, we can expect some scattered showers, possible isolated thunderstorm activity. Stay tuned. This is your first look at weather. More still to come.
Still to come on our news, the National Junkanoo Legends Circle induction ceremony is underway. Our Bertha McDermott joins us live from Margaritaville straight ahead. Plus, new presents bring excitement on Christmas morning, but they may also come with safety hazards. What you should look out for before the big day. That's all coming up when our news returns. Junkanoo Legends getting much deserved recognition tonight at the National Junkanoo Legends Circle induction ceremony. Our Bertha McDermott is at the Margaritaville Resort where the ceremony is taking place. Berthany, what can you tell us?
Italia, Junkanooers are out in all of their best tonight as they've come to pay respect to some of the country's Junkanoo legends. I can tell you the energy is high in here as they've not been able to gather like this in over 2 years due to the COVID-19 pandemic. But here to tell us a bit more, I'm joined by Chair of the National Junkanoo Committee, Warren Andrew Pinder. Mr. Pinder, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Tell us a bit about the event and what can individuals expect to come to it.
Tonight's event is here to celebrate the class of 2022 Junkanoo Legends honorees. Legends are made for their work and service into the Junkanoo community. We are here tonight to induct them into the Junkanoo Legends Circle.
So I'm also joined by the National Deputy Chair who's going to explain a bit about why events like this, an event like this, is so important to pay respect and to recognize our Junkanoo legends.
Well, it is important because you're looking at something that's unique to us. And, you know, for so often we fail to celebrate our own. And Junkanoo is unique, the greatest show on earth. And the people that make it happen are the people that you see here tonight that are going to be honored. So I'm a Junkanoo, but I'm also a Junkanoo fan. So these the characters that everybody see on Bay Street, they're here tonight, and I'm just as excited as everybody else to be able to honor these guys.
Well, I'm excited as well. We understand about 20 people should be honored here. The event hasn't started yet, so anyone thinking to come still has time to come and be a part, so you can too pay respect to some of the Junkanoo legends of the Bahamas. But for now, reporting live from Margaritaville, I'm Berthany McDermott. Send it back to you in studio, Italia.
All right, Berthany, sounds exciting. Thank you so much.
It's now time for tonight's Financial Market Minute, brought to you by RF, your local investment bank. This has been your Financial Market Minute. To explore the best performing mutual funds in the Bahamas, visit our website at www.rfgroup.com.
When our news comes back from the break, a pediatrician shares top tips for toy safety this holiday season.
Plus, coming up in sports for tonight, DeAndre Ayton and his Suns try to turn their fortunes in a game against the Houston Rockets. We'll tell you if they got it done. We'll also tell you how they...
And a look ahead at the weather forecast as we count down the days to Christmas. We have the details when our news returns.
This is our news. Welcome back. Slow night for DeAndre Ayton as the Suns continue to struggle. Meanwhile, the College Bowl season kicks off tomorrow with the Bahamas Bowl and the odd distance track meet all set. Here's Marcellus Hall with a check on sports.
Thanks, Natalia. Welcome to our sports, everybody. I'm Marcellus Hall. DeAndre Ayton and the Phoenix Suns, and they started off the season very good. Since then, though, they've struggled a bit in their last few games. Last night, hoping to turn things around when they faced off against the Houston Rockets. Turns out things didn't go quite as planned. Let's take a look. DeAndre Ayton and his Phoenix Suns on the road against the Houston Rockets last night. Suns have been struggling, trying to get back on the winning track. Turns out Houston not willing to play along. They get the win here, 111-97 ends up being the final score. DeAndre, tough night at the office. Played just 14 minutes, finishes up with 5 points, 3 rebounds in the losing call. The Suns now will try to go back to the drawing board as they get ready for their next contest, which will come your way when they take on the LA Clippers. That game comes your way tonight. As a matter of fact, we'll give you details on that tomorrow. Speaking of tomorrow, the Bahamas Bowl is back for another edition for this weekend as well. The odd distance meet will take place at the Thomas A. Robinson Stadium. We do anticipate some pretty good attendance there. The meet will start at 12 noon, runs right through 6 at the old Thomas A. Robinson Stadium. Of course, the odd distance meet, just as it sounds, will have some odd distance events, including the 60 meters, the 150, and so on and so forth. Details coming up for you a little bit later on. And there it is, your look at sports for you here on this Thursday. I'm Marcellus Hall. Back to you, Italia.
Still ahead on our news tonight, with all of the excitement of opening gifts on Christmas morning. Don't forget to make your safety checks for new toys. We'll tell you how. And our news isn't done yet. Ian will be back with your extended weather forecast when our news returns.
Welcome back to our news. We may have some partly cloudy conditions ahead. Ian is back in the Weather Center with your extended weather forecast. Ian?
Thanks, Natalia. Welcome back, everyone. Here's your look at your extended forecast. In our satellite loop, we have this impressive cold front that's making its way towards us. It's racing through the central Florida, into southeast Florida, and should make its way into the extreme northwest Bahamas late tonight, early tomorrow, where most of the convection, meaning the showers and thunderstorms, would be confined across that area. So the remainder of the island should be in pretty good conditions. However, we do expect a low pressure system to form in the Gulf area, move towards our area sometime on Wednesday, so we can anticipate an uptick in showers and thunderstorm activity across us. So we want to pay attention to that. Your boating forecast for this evening: small craft advisory in place in the northwest Bahamas due to those northeasterly swells. Winds will be southerly at 15 to 20 knots tonight, becoming south to southwest at 10 to 15 knots tomorrow. Seas will be running 4 to 7 feet. Dipping down a bit 2 to 4, but still up to 8 feet in those swells, so we're advising you, boaters, to exercise caution. Low tide will be at 7:03 p.m. this evening. In the central and southeast Bahamas, small craft advisory in place, exactly because of those northeasterly swells persisting again. Winds east to southeast at 10 to 15 knots, seas 2 to 4, but again up to 6 to 8 feet in those persistent swells. Here's a look at your national forecast. And in your extended forecast, rain in the forecast, precipitation chances up to about 65%. However, most of that will be confined to the extreme northwest Bahamas. Into Saturday, again, things taper off a bit, but on Sunday we expect a nice cold front to push through our area, should cool things down a bit. Breezy early part of the week, and again, Wednesday things shape up again due to a low pressure system. We're looking at highs in the low 80s with our lows in the upper 60s to low 70s. That puts a wrap on your forecast for this evening. Thanks, everyone. Make it a great night.
Thanks, Ian. Well, Christmas is only 10 days away, and there will be lots of gift giving, especially for the little ones. But have you ever wondered which toys are safe and which are not? Well, you can find out by going to the Our News Bahamas Facebook page or ournews.bs for the full story. Well, thank you for joining us for our news tonight. On behalf of the entire team, I'm Natalia Hall. We'll see you tomorrow night. Have a great evening.